Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church for April 10th, 2022. I'm Reverend Connie Grant, interim minister of this congregation. We are so glad you are here, whether you are present in the sanctuary this morning or watching remotely. It is so good to be together. To keep us all as safe as possible, we'll remain masked, except that those of us on the chancel will remove our masks to speak from the microphone. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another on our spiritual and religious journeys. Whether you are a member or friend of this congregation or have recently discovered us, we are glad that you are with us this morning. Whoever you are and wherever you are welcome here.
Good morning. I'm Joe Lindsley, Worship Associate for today's service. Today and each Sunday, please join us for social time hosted by Reverend Connie by Zoom following the service from 11:30 to noon. Socialize with friends old and new, and consider a discussion question related to the service as we break into small groups. This second Sunday of the month, you are invited for conversation and connection with members of the Board of Trustees, in person, in the sanctuary, or online by Zoom from noon to 12:30. You can find links for Social Time and Science Sunday on the church website under Here's What's Happening Now. We have a special announcement now from Karen Hutt, Chair of our Ministerial Search Committee.
Good morning. Our committee has chosen a ministerial candidate, and candidating week is coming soon. This is the final step in calling our settled minister, and you are an important part of the action. Here's how you can be involved. Number one, get to know our ministerial candidate. Mandy Huizinga has been chosen as our candidate for settled minister, and we introduced her to the congregation on April 3rd. You can learn more about her ministry and watch her sermons on her website, which we will send out in an email this week. Number two, participate in candidating week. Mandy will lead the service on Sunday, April 24th, and she will spend the following week getting to know us. During the week, she will function as our minister in all aspects of church life. Connie Grant will not be present that week. Mandy will meet with various groups and committees, and she will be available to meet with church members at several open house events during the week. Please check your email this week to see the schedule of open house events. Number three, participate in the vote to call Mandy as our settled minister. Mandy will close candidating week by leading the service on Sunday, May 1st. After the service, the congregation will vote yes or no to call her as our settled minister. The Board of Trustees has organized a special congregational meeting on May 1st at 11:30 a.m. for this purpose. Please save the date on your calendars so that you can join us. Your vote on May 1st is important to the future of our congregation. So please, become better acquainted with our candidate in whatever ways work well for you. And thank you once again for the honor of serving our church on the Ministerial Search Committee.
love burning deep in every human heart calls us to awaken. Awaken to the work of justice, awaken to the work of compassion, awaken to the work of community. For in this time of human suffering and exaltation, we are called beyond awakening into action. May the chalice flame we now light guide our hearts in service to a greater good that holds all living things in its holy embrace.
We gather in religious community celebrating the gifts of life, recognizing our part in the greater wholeness, lifting up those things that are worthy of our attention, learning to be our best selves. It's time to gather. Since Steve is off today, I'm glad to have the opportunity to share this story with you. This is one of my very favorite stories, and I've told this to you once before, and I just love it, and it fits, I believe, this service just as well as it fit the last one. This is my adaptation of a Taoist tale sometimes called A Farmer's Horse Ran Off, and that I call The Farmer, His Horse, and His Son. This works best with audience participation, so I'd like to invite you to practice your part. These are the words. Could be good, could be bad. It's too soon to tell. So will you practice? Could be good, could be bad. It's too soon to tell. I'll give you your cue as we go along. Once there was a farmer who had one son and one horse. His son and his horse were the two most important things in the world to him. One day, the farmer's horse ran off. When the neighbors heard what had happened, knowing how important the farmer's horse was to him, they came to him to commiserate. We heard your horse ran off, and we want you to know that we think that is just terrible, awful, and just plain bad. And the farmer said, could be good, could be bad, it's too soon to tell. The next day, the horse returned, bringing a herd of 7 wild horses with him. The neighbors came to the farmer and said, we heard that you now have 8 horses. They were good at math. And we just want you to know that we think that is wonderful, fantastic, and just really good. And the farmer said, could be good, could be bad, it's too soon to tell. The next day, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses. The horse threw him, and he broke his leg. The neighbors said, we heard your son broke his leg, and we want you to know that we think that is just such a shame, a true misfortune, and just really, really bad. And the farmer said, could be good, could be bad, it's too soon to tell. The next day, soldiers showed up at the door to draft the farmer's son into the army, but since he had broken his leg, the son wasn't able to go off to fight. The neighbors said, we're so happy for you. That's just the best thing that ever happened, and it's just really, really good. And the farmer said, could be good, could be bad. It's too soon to tell. And that's probably not the end of the story. It's now time for children and youth to exit the sanctuary and meet your classroom leaders. Elementary age will go to Creeves Hall, 7th and 8th grade to the Learning Center, and high school youth to the Founders Room. And now those remaining in the sanctuary, please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing with our choristers while remaining masked. You may wish to remain risen for the responsive reading and the hymn that follow.
Risen
please join in reading responsively. We whose journeys are always beginning, we whose mission always awaits us, we whose visions are bent on loving, we gather together here. We gather as a community drawn together out of common need, each toting our own carpet bag of treasures and dreams. We gather together seeking meaning, yearning to understand life in all its dimensions, as it challenges and expands, as it burdens, as it consoles and heals. We gather together with questions, the kinds of questions that provoke us to the path of action. We gather with hope, the kind of hope that pulses on through uncertainty. We gather with tenderness, the kind of tenderness that can only be born from knowing human capabilities as well as human imperfections. We gather wanting certainty and having none, but we are wakeful to possibilities as we seek discernment and gentle judgment. We gather then unbounded, yet closely bound together. And now please stay standing if you wish, and join us in the hymn 298, Wake Now My Senses.
It is so wonderful to not only see your faces, but also to hear your voices. Seem to be a little tangled up here. We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. A joy from Jane Bodine. Jane's mom, Beatrice Bodine, died on September 1st, 2021, and had requested a great-grandchild. She said to Jane, "Tell Josh and Ash I want to have a great-grandchild." On April 2nd, 2022, Elizabeth Beatrice Laterman was born, making Jane Bodine a grandparent at last. Her nickname is Lizzie B., as Jane says, from loss to joy. From Laura Wilmarth Tyna. The Wilmarth Tyna family was sad to lose 2 family members to COVID in February and March. Joe's grandmother and grandfather both passed. Your good energy and love are appreciated. We remember those who are experiencing losses of various kinds and those facing health challenges. As the Russian assault on Ukraine goes on, we pray. We focus our thoughts and energies for safety and strength for the Ukrainian people. We pray for peace. Even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. As we hold each other in our hearts and minds, with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, let's take a moment to be quiet together. Wait, by Tess Bomberger. Wait, it will happen. Your sleeping seed in the cool, fertile dark will one day split in 2. The tiny shoot will curl out in the slow motion dance of new beginning. Watch, it will take place. The tiny newborn thing will push in persistent green up through the clods and dampness and even the harsh crust and into the succulent sun. Listen, it will ring in you. In miraculous haste, twin leaves will unfold and set their sails to drink the dew, and you will photosynthesize life from the day into stems and other miracles. Sense, it will flow to you. Your roots will ebb down into timeless caverns and draw from them nourishment that will move joyfully through your veins of gratitude. See, it is your gift now. Sun and earth in you, creating tiny seeds in slender shelters to hibernate through winter and yawn to life again.
Good morning. I'm Mary Hamill, accompanied by this wonderful bougainvillea. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by the special offerings team. Our special offering recipient for April is We Grow Dreams Greenhouse and Garden Center. I am proud to introduce Greg Betcher, Executive Director, who will now tell us about the work of We Grow Dreams.
Good morning. Good morning. What a perfect day to be here. This is Bob. We miss him terribly, but we know he's going to a better place. Thank you so much for what you're about to do and for what you're doing this month on our behalf. We Grow Dreams is a very, very special place. Just for a show of hands by people that have been to We Grow Dreams, please. That's really disappointing. Thank you very much for coming out to visit us. To those of you who haven't made it, shame on you. We have an incredible, incredible business that is built solely on the backs of providing jobs for people with disabilities. It is a very, very rare occurrence where you will find people with disabilities in the workforce. Most of them are part-time hires at best in locations, for example, at maybe Jewel, Osco. Eagle used to be a tremendous supporter of people with disabilities. They closed up many years ago. I'm showing my age there. But other areas in the community that support people with disabilities are few and far between. For a person with a disability to find a job that pays a decent wage rate and will employ them for 30 to 40 hours a week is almost unheard of. People with disabilities are viewed as basically castaways in the system, that if an employer is able to get them 10 or 15 hours a week, they feel like they're doing their part. It's just imperative that we provide better training and more locations for people with disabilities to be part of the community. I'm very proud of the fact that We Grow Dreams has, at this time, 34 employees with disabilities. You will not find another place in the area that employs those numbers. Again, I'm very proud of that. We work hard to keep them employed, to bring them into our fold and train them and show them the type of opportunities that they can do and that they can take, and the work skills that they can take to other places. Some of them have been able to find jobs at other places in our community, and for that we're very grateful. I spoke to this group about 6 years ago, and one of the first comments I had afterwards was a gentleman walked up to me and said, I have no idea where you're located. So I'll fix that right now. We're located on Roosevelt Road, way, way out west, almost to the other side of West Chicago. I know you all have cars and GPS systems and phones, and I know if you Google We Grow Dreams, you'll find us. We're pretty darn easy, and the fact that we're a bright yellow building mixed a bunch of industrial park buildings, we're pretty easy to find, being the bright yellow building that stands out. We handle annuals, 650 different types. We handle perennials, 150 different types. We also plant vegetables, which are growing as we speak, and we'll probably have 50 to 60 different kinds of vegetables this year. Along with that, we have houseplants and succulents. Bob falls under the houseplants area. So, and he's representing it very well. I just came back from my first ever vacation in 6 years that was not spent at Central DuPage Hospital. So this is a huge moment for me. We got back last night at 8:30, and I'm proud to say that Key West still is producing more bougainvilleas than We Grow Dreams is. It was just beautiful. We had the whole family down there for the first time ever, so that was a terrific getaway for us. Back to We Grow Dreams. On a week-to-week basis, we have, as I mentioned, 34 people come visit us. They think it's a visit. We call it work. They will do chores from routinely emptying and doing maintenance on our compost pile, to emptying garbage cans, to right now we're filling planters with soil and setting that up for our transplant team. Right now, we are in the midst of our spring bloom. So we have 12 greenhouses that are currently being planted, and we will plant as many as 500,000 plants this year. So they're all sitting there growing up for the next month and a half, just waiting for you to come and bring them home and give them good homes. Again, thank you very much for supporting us. Come out and see us. Come out and see what we do. I've left some older fundraising letters out in the lobby, so you'll be able to see what we do. I also left some business cards. If you want to at any time put together a group to come and tour to see what we do, please do that. You're welcome to come visit us, be they school groups, church groups, flower garden centers, what have you. Just when it gets ready, which is not now, but when that time gets here, come and see us, and I know you'll enjoy the types of plants that we grow. So thank you very much for allowing me the privilege of speaking before you, and enjoy this terrific day. Thank you.
And we will now take the morning's offering to support the work of We Grow Dreams and of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. Thank you.
Hi, Bob. A famous monastery had fallen on hard times. Formerly, its many buildings were filled with young monks, but now it was all but deserted. People no longer came there to be nourished by prayer, and only a handful of old monks shuffled through the cloisters, serving God with heavy hearts. On the edge of the monastery woods, an old rabbi had built a little hut. He would come there from time to fast and to pray. No one ever spoke with him, but whenever he appeared, the word would be passed from monk to monk. The rabbi walks in the woods. One day, the abbot decided to visit the rabbi and open his heavy heart to him. So he set out through the woods. As he approached the hut, the abbot saw the rabbi standing in the doorway, his arms outstretched in welcome. They embraced like long-lost brothers. The two entered the hut, where, in the middle of the room, stood a wooden table with the scriptures open on it. They sat for a while, just quietly together. Then the rabbi began to weep. The abbot could not contain himself. He covered his face with his hands and began to cry too. The two men sat there like lost children, filling the hut with their shared pain and tears. But soon the tears ceased and all was quiet. The rabbi lifted his head. "You and your brothers are serving God with heavy hearts," he said. "You have come to ask a teaching of me. I will give you a teaching." The rabbi looked straight at the abbot and said, "The Messiah is among you." For a while, all was silent. The rabbi said, "Now you must go." The next morning, the abbot called his monks together in the chapter room. He told them he had received a teaching from the rabbi who walks in the woods. Then he looked at the group of assembled brothers and said, "The rabbi said that the Messiah is among us." The monks were startled, to say the least. What could it mean, they asked themselves. Is Brother John the Messiah? Or Brother Matthew? Or Brother Thomas? It couldn't possibly be that I am the Messiah, could it? They were all deeply puzzled by the rabbi's teaching. What could all this mean? And things changed. As time went by, the monks began to treat one another with new and very special reverence. A gentle, warm-hearted concern began to grow among them. They began to live with each other as people who had finally found the special something they were looking for. When visitors came to the monastery, they found themselves deeply moved by the life with these monks. Word spread, and before long, people were coming from far and wide to be nourished by the prayer life of the monks and to experience the loving reverence with which they held each other. Soon, other young men were asking once again to become part of the community, and the community grew and prospered.
And the farmer said, What did the farmer say? And of course, that's really not the end of the story. In real life, something happens, we respond, something else happens, and we respond again. In real life, we break a leg, lose a job, a relationship ends, or we escape a disaster, find meaningful employment, or begin a friendship or a romance. And we have to figure out what to do, how to be, who to be. In the twisting plots of the stories of our lives, expectations are set, expectations are upset. It's too soon to tell how the story will turn out. We need to wait to see how the plot will unfold. Our lives depend not on what happens to us, but on how we respond. And our ability to respond depends on our expectations of ourselves and the possibilities before us. What can we possibly do? Who can we possibly be? What difference does it make? As the inter-ministry search cycle is beginning and I start looking for my next gig, I remind myself of this story about expectations. There once was a town where an old wise person used to sit by the side of the road outside the city gates. A traveler came down the road and said to the wise one, "I am looking for a new place to live. Can you tell me what things are like in this town?" And the wise one said to the traveler, "First, tell me what things are like in the town that you come from." The traveler replied, "The people there are rude, unhelpful, unfriendly, and generally unpleasant to be around." And the wise one replied, "I think you'll find people here to be much the same." And the traveler continued down the road. Then another traveler came down the road and said to the old wise person, "I'm looking for a new place to live. Can you tell me what things are like in this town?" And the wise one said to the traveler, "First, tell me what things are like in the town that you come from." The traveler replied, "The people there are kind, helpful, friendly, and generally pleasant to be around." And the wise one replied, "I think you'll find people here to be much the same." And the traveler stayed for a time. In my ministry, I hope to be like that second traveler. I've stayed with you for a time, and soon it will be time for me to head on down the road. I don't yet know where I'll be going next, but I'm pretty sure that the people there, wherever that is, will be kind, helpful, friendly, and generous, kind of like you. And yet, of course, the people there, wherever that is, won't be quite like you, but then who is? And your next minister won't be Connie and won't be Mike or Tom or Emmy Lou or any of the other ministers who have served this congregation over the years. Your next minister may have some of the good qualities of some of those ministers, and maybe even some of the imperfections of some of those ministers. But ultimately, your minister will be none other than who they are and who they become in relationship with you as a congregation. But just like all those other ministers, your next minister also won't be the Messiah, won't walk on water, won't be perfect, whatever that is, but may be perfect for you, to help you be who you want to be. Ministers sometimes joke about what congregations expect of them. Here's one minister's description of the requirements for ministry, and maybe not really such a joke. Congregations expect ministers to be firm, but not rigid, honest, but not rude, moral, but not stuffy, humble, but not servile, intelligent, but not bookish, humorous, but not frivolous, serious, but not depressing. Friendly, but not too friendly. Clever, but not too clever. Prophetic, but not critical. That's a tough list of expectations. One of the most important things that I think has been accomplished during your transitional time is that you have raised your expectations of yourselves and your minister in realistic ways about what you as a congregation can do, about what your minister can do to work with you and support you and help you to be and become your best selves. Expectations can be deadly if they are too high or too low. Deadly if our expectations keep us from recognizing our reality. Deadly if our expectations of ourselves or each other are so high that they are impossible to achieve. Deadly if our expectations are so low that they keep us from accomplishing all that we can. And deadly if our expectations keep us from recognizing ourselves and each other for who we really are and for who we can authentically become. And expectations can be enlivening and inspirational if we rise to the occasion and to the needs before us. You've heard the announcement from your ministerial search committee that they have selected Mandy Huizinga as candidate to be your next settled minister. On May 1st, you'll vote on whether to call Mandy to be your minister. You're looking forward expectantly to candidating week. I'm looking forward to that week too, when my job is to be elsewhere, and that's where I'm gonna be. My elsewhere is going to be Phoenix, where there's an inter-ministry conference that week, and some inter-ministers are gathering there. I also happen to have a son and some grandsons there, which is an extra added bonus for me. You've provided your input into the search process through a congregational survey and cottage meetings. And of course, you've done your own mental and spiritual work during this time of transition. You've waited in expectation and anticipation, which is part of the process too. Sometimes we just need to wait. We wait for an announcement, for an answer, a diagnosis, or a birth. Some things take their own time and can't happen until it's time for them to happen. Even when we are waiting with feelings of impatience, waiting forces patience. As Henry Nouwen wrote, true patience is the opposite of a passive waiting in which we let things happen and allow others to make the decisions. Patience is the capacity to see, hear, touch, taste, and smell as fully as possible the inner and outer events of our lives. Patience involves staying with it, living it through, listening carefully to what presents in the here and now. Patience, says Nouwen, is a willingness to be influenced even when this requires giving up control and entering into unknown territory. This kind of active waiting involves what one writer calls steady determination and lively expectation. To paraphrase the poet Rilke, may we have patience with everything that remains unsolved in our hearts. May we try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books written in a foreign language. And perhaps we will gradually, without even noticing it, find ourselves experiencing the answer some distant day. And as we move into unknown territory, into futures yet unknown, may our expectations be grounded in reality, hopeful, active, and aspirational. May it be so. And now please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing. Sing out praises for the journey.
May we take from life its coals, not its ashes. Fan the flames of love and justice. Join hands and hearts in common endeavor, and there will be no limit to what we can achieve together.
May we live our lives fully and creatively so that we may be a blessing to ourselves, to each other, and to all those whose lives we touch. Amen.